This session video talks about some efficient ways that you can select cells in Microsoft Excel. This video is using these sample files that you can download. It's using the worksheet called Selecting. This video is dedicated to talking about how you go about selecting different parts of a spreadsheet using different techniques. The first thing I want to talk about is just being able to select cells, a small range of cells by using your mouse. Let's say, for example, I want to select from A3 over to perhaps D10. So what I do is I put my mouse in the middle of the cell where I want to start the selection. I'll get a white cross, which is the selecting tool for Excel. I'll hold my mouse button down and drag across to column E, row 10, and those cells are now selected. The first cell appears to not be selected, but it is selected. Excel does show you the first cell where you started the selection. That's a quick way of easily selecting a small range of cells using your mouse. You can also use your mouse to select a small range of cells. So in this case, I want to select the same range of cells again. I'll first of all click on cell A3. Then on my keyboard, I'll hold down the Shift button, and I'll touch the down arrow key until I get down to row 10. And still with the Shift button held down, I'll touch the right arrow key to move over to cell E10. So rather than use my mouse and select, I can use Shift and the arrow keys on my keyboard to select cells. Another way to select parts of a spreadsheet is to select entire columns or entire rows. Let's say, for example, I want to select the entire column G. So I'll take my mouse up to column header G, get a black down arrow, and click. The entire column gets selected. Same idea. If I want to select column E, black arrow on column header E, and click. Column E is selected, and it does release column G when I go to do that. If I want to select an entire row, for example, if I want to select row 10, I put my mouse over on row header number 10, and click. It selects the entire row. Same thing. If I go to row header number 15 and click, it'll select the entire row there as well. So you can use the entire column, you can use column headers or row headers in order to choose an entire column or to choose an entire row. Sometimes you might want to select different parts of a spreadsheet. Let's say, for example, I want to select 8 or 10 different employee numbers in this first column and also select their first name. Now the problem here is that the employee number and the first name are not next to each other. So I first of all select the first range of cells that I want by just dragging through with the selecting tool. Then to choose the other part that I want to select and keep the first part still selected, on my keyboard I hold Control down, then I hold my mouse down and drag down the listing of another part of the spreadsheet that I want to select. And one more time, if I want to do the same thing over in column F, I'll hold Control down on my keyboard and use my mouse and drag through the cells I want to select. So to choose different parts of a spreadsheet, you choose the first part just regularly using your mouse. Then to keep that selected and select other parts of the spreadsheet, you hold Control down and drag through the cells that you want to select. So that's how you can select non-adjacent parts of a spreadsheet. The same idea, if you want to select the entire column B and maybe also column E, you first of all choose the column that you want to select. So go to column header B and get the black arrow and click. And then on my keyboard, I'll hold Control down. I'll go to column header E, get a black arrow there and click. And then I've got column B selected and column E selected. So again, I'm using the Control button to choose different parts of the spreadsheet. And one more time, I'll hold Control down again on my keyboard and go to column header G to choose the entire column G. I'll click away to release all the selected cells. If I want to select adjacent columns, it's much easier. If I want to select from column B over to column E, I put my mouse on column header B, I get the black cross, and just drag across the column headers at the top to choose adjacent columns in a case like that. And I'll click one more time back into my spreadsheet. And the last thing that you might do on a regular basis is to select the entire spreadsheet. And to do this, I'll take my mouse to the left of column header A, and above row number 1, there's a button here in the upper left-hand corner that is used for selecting the entire spreadsheet. When I click it, the entire spreadsheet gets selected. So again, take your mouse to the left of column header A, above row number 1, and click this button, and that'll select the entire spreadsheet. So those are some different ways you can use your mouse, your keyboard, in order to select parts of a spreadsheet. And then finally, I want to talk about how you can select large ranges of data that's continuous. And when I say the word continuous, that means the cells, there are no breaks, there are no blank rows in the range. So I want to select all the employee numbers in this list, and I first of all click in cell A4. Then on my keyboard, I use my left hand, and at the same time, I hold Control and Shift down on my keyboard. And then on the keyboard towards the right-hand side, I touch the down arrow key, and that'll choose all the way to the end of a continuous list. So it's a really fast way to choose things in a spreadsheet, especially for longer spreadsheets. You use the technique of control shift and down arrow key. I'm going to try this again. I want to choose all the salaries in this list. So I choose G4 first of all. Then on my keyboard, I'll hold Control and Shift down with my left hand. And then with my right hand, I'll touch the down arrow key. And that'll choose all the way to the end of the continuous list. And again, one more time, just for example, I'm going to click at A4, and this time I want to select all the way across to G4. So I click on the first cell. Again, I hold Control and Shift down on my keyboard, and this time I touch the right arrow key on my keyboard. It'll select across until it runs into a blank cell. And with that selected, if I now go Control Shift and down arrow, it'll choose all the way down. So I now have the entire data set now selected. So a really fast way to select large blocks of continuous data is you click on the first cell, then on your keyboard, hold Control and Shift down and touch any of the 4 arrow keys. It'll select in the direction of the arrow. Again, those are some nice ways to efficiently select things in Microsoft Excel. It's a core skill that you need to have to be an efficient Excel user.